Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So we're coming back to Purrely. I have been practicing with Purrely in between when it came out and, well, now at the time I'm covering it again. Even though I haven't really been covering it much on the channel, I've definitely still been playing the deck here and there. Just getting in some more practice with the deck because, as I've said many times, Purrely is definitely one of those decks that definitely has a very high skill ceiling and even has a pretty decent floor too. And for those who don't know what I mean, when I say skill, floor, or ceiling, right, the floor kind of refers to the minimal level of skill I guess you kind of need or knowledge about the deck in order to play it efficiently, whereas the ceiling represents the highest level of skill while playing a specific deck, right? So when I say it's got a high ceiling, I mean, in order to play Purrely at its full potential, you have to pretty much be an expert on the deck. But it's got a relatively high floor too, which means that even to play at a base level, you still need to very much know what you're doing. At least, you know, when it comes to summoning out Noir, drawing multiple cards on the standby phase with multiple Xyz monsters using Sleepy Memory, and also just knowing when you're going to get disrupted, how to play around that, so on and so forth. Although that's pretty true of just about any deck. So Purrely in particular is also a very unique deck where it's got a very solid core, right? Like, you're pretty much always going to play 3 Purrelyly and 3 Purrely and each of the quick play spells and so on and so forth. But beyond that, in the main deck and also in the extra deck, there's a lot of different room for different techs, and there's a lot of flexible spots in that regard. So this build is pretty similar to my last one in a lot of ways, right? It's a more quote-unquote pure build in that we're not using the Dark World engine or the Crystal Beast engine, mainly more focusing on trying to keep the deck consistent with the Purrely cards themselves. I don't think the Dark Worlds, because I get a lot of questions about that whenever I play Purrely on stream, for example, right? I get asked quite frequently, why don't you play the Dark Worlds? Because they offer more advantage, and that is true. They do offer some degree of, hand advantage by sending the Brow or the Snow. You get a discard or a search when you, discard one of the quick play spells. But honestly, I don't really think that's worth it because the Dark Worlds aren't really doing anything else, and I don't like the idea of playing cards that are just made to be discarded. Especially if they're monsters, because I find myself when I'm playing this deck, a lot of the time I need to be discarding at least one spell or trap card if I'm going to summon the Noir on turn 1. You don't have to do that with every single hand, but I find that very often you do. Often enough that, I'm not really convinced how much I want to play, multiple monsters that are really only useful for being discarded off the quick play spells, if a good amount of the time I'm going to want to discard a spell or a trap card anyway. We are playing 2 copies of Kashtira Fenrir that was not in the build last time we covered the deck, and in that regard, it is, a monster that I'm more or less intending to discard off of the quick play spell. Not the first copy, of course, but naturally the idea is to special copy of Kashtira Fenrir, add the other one, and then discard that other one with the quick play spell card, because ideally you won't even be able to summon the Fenrir, the second one, for the rest of the game. So how is this different than the Dark Worlds? Well, the difference is that Fenrir offers a lot more utility outside of just being discarded, right? Kashtira Fenrir is, of course, a great card in its own right, putting a sizable body on the board that also threatens to start banishing your opponent's cards. So, yeah, in that case, I definitely like having the card that just has multiple functions, multiple utility, as opposed to the card that only does one thing in one circumstance. Again, that's the main reason why I'm just not that much of a fan of the Dark Worlds and the Crystal Beast package and so on and so forth. Again, I don't think it's bad. I think you can play those cards and definitely, I mean, we've seen a lot of tournament winning and topping lists that are using the Dark World cards. So it's not bad or wrong. I don't like it. So another change that we made is we added a Veiler. I actually took out only one Imperm to put in one Veiler. I did have a build where I was playing 2 of each initially, but it seemed like maybe a bit much. A lot of people were making pretty good points that, if you draw the Veiler during the standby phase off of the Sleepy Memory effect, that's a lot better than drawing an Imperm, because you can actually use the Veiler on your opponent's turn. And I can even see a world where maybe we go to 2 Veiler, 1 Imperm, but the thing is, again, I'm trying to think more of general use cases, right? And I try to do this when I deck build. I'm not trying to think of specific interactions all the time, unless I think it's going to come up a lot. And while, yes, ideally you would like to get multiple draws off of Sleepy Memory every single game, The reality is that you often don't actually do that. In fact, I would say the minority of Purrely games I play, and who knows, maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but the minority of Purrely games I play are ones where I'm actually like drawing multiple cards during the standby phase of Sleeping Memory. Usually it's like one, if that, you know. Usually I have to play through Disruption, just fight to get my Noir on the board in the first place, and don't often have the luxury of Sleeping Memory. So, again, you know, it's a kind of similar to what I was saying with the Dark Worlds, where it's like, although this is, I think, a little bit less case because, you know, Valor is obviously just generally useful, you know, in general, but so is Imperm. And, you know, if it's like, you know, am I going to take out all my Imperms just because it might be better to draw Valor if I make a Noir that has multiple Sleeping Memories and if they draw the Valor? You know what I mean? It's like, there's so many ifs there and it's such a narrow case. But again, I will at least say that the Valor has function outside of just this one thing. And, you know, it is a fair point. And I am playing the one copy, not just because of the chance of maybe drawing it during the standby phase, although, you know, if I'm only playing one, it's not that high of odds. But also for Crossout Designator, Valor is becoming a lot more popular. And in that regard, you know, it's nice to have the out for it. Valor is also a level 1 light monster, which means it can be used to summon any of our rank ones, our Relinquished Anima, our Sky Striker Ace Azelea, so I don't know, the card definitely has a lot of utility in the deck. But again, Imperm, you can use it on your turn, which is very, very nice and extremely relevant. And again, it's also a spell or trap card, which sometimes you need to discard off of the quick play spells. The change to the extra deck that I made, I think aside from adding a symbol Nightingale, I don't know if that was in there before, but we also added Ensemblue Robin. I did craft one. I had one before, I guess I dismantled it at some point, but I did craft it again, so we do have it once again here. That's pretty much going to cover the list here. I'm going to go ahead and just break it down card by card real quick, and then we'll see some gameplay. So we're on 1 Effect Valor, 3 Purrely, 3 Purrelyly, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Kashtira Fenrir, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Straight Purrely Street, 3 My Friend Purrely, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Purrely Happy Memory, 3 Purrely Pretty Memory, 3 Purrely Delicious Memory, 3 Purrely Sleepy Memory, 2 Infinte Impermanence, and then 1 Purrelyeap. That's going to go ahead and do it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Sylvan Princessprout, 1 Lyrilusc Symbol Nightingale, 1 Lyrilusc Ensemblue Robin, 1 Epurrely Happiness, 2 Epurrely Beauty, 2 Epurrely Plump, 1 Downerd Magician, 1 Expurrely Happiness, 2 Expurrely Noir, 1 Divine Arsenal, AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder, 1 Relinquished Anima, and then 1 Sky Striker Ace Azelea. So there is our list. Let's see some gameplay. Okay, so this was an instance where I only saw one part of my opponent's deck during the actual game. I only saw the Mikanko part, but my opponent's actually on Punk, Wind Up, Mikanko. And they opted to go first, so I'd be interested to see exactly how all my opponent's engines kind of interact there. But unfortunately for them, I did open the level 2 Earth Insect, so I'm going to go ahead and fire that off during their turn. They're going to set 1 card and then pass. I'm going to use Call by when they have the level 2 Earth Insect. They have a Crossout Designator, but because life isn't fair for my opponent, I just actually have the second Call by here, so in a lot of ways, I will say that this is definitely kind of me, you know, getting really lucky against an opponent when I went second. But I did want to show this game anyway because Purrely's kind of in a unique position, right? Where even in a situation like this, where if I were playing just about literally any other meta deck, I would actually just be able to very easily OTK my opponent and just dumpster all over them. But Purrely is a very unique deck in a lot of ways, and one of the ways in which it's unique is that you can't really OTK against an open board, actually. Your opponent needs an attack mode monster, so I'm going to summon the Purrely here. Opponent's going to Ash Blossom. I definitely think this was a misplay. If you're wondering where to use your choke points, or what the choke points of Purrely rather are, where to use your interaction, you definitely want to use Ash Blossom against My Friend Purrely. It's pretty much always right to save it for this card. Because, you know, we often, as a Purrely deck, need one very specific quick play spell card. It's actually not the case here, but very often we do. And, you know, My Friend Purrely is also once per turn. And you want to use your Imperm on the Purrelyly, because you'll not only negate the Purrelyly search effect, but also her effect to be able to turn into an Xyz monster by targeting a spell card in the grave. So, basically what I'm doing here is I'm just building up to a Noir. Well, first I'm going to actually battle with the Plump, so that way I can summon my Noir in defense mode and still have battle with the Plump. You might be wondering, well, why don't you just summon a Zeus here? You could go Downerd ZEUS and it would have like 7 materials. I do think that the 6 material Noir is better than like a 6 material Zeus, if you have the option to go between the two. The Noir offers a towers type protection that a lot of decks just can't break through. Like, sure, yeah, the Zeus has board wipes, which is better than just like a single target removal. In a lot of cases, although the Zeus's board wipe will put the card in the graveyard, and the Noir tucking the card on the bottom of the deck does actually come up and matter a lot against a lot of decks. But not only that, but I actually do think that the Noir, being an unaffected monster, like, it already sets a huge hurdle for your opponent to have to get over it, and then by the time they do manage to mount enough resources to begin to get over it, you can also just use the Noir disruption to just like stop that anyway. So I think in a lot of cases, the Noir with 6 materials will draw a lot more disruption and just resources in general from your opponent than a Zeus with 6 materials, which is why I went for that over the Zeus here. But that was a pretty quick game. I actually probably should have showed that game a little bit later in the video, but it's all good. We definitely have some more duels to check out. There are some much more back and forth games. Let's go ahead and see the next one here. Alright, so here we have a game against Sword Soul. This one's going to be a 7-turn duel, so definitely not going to be as short as that last one there. Alright, let's go ahead and dive right into it here. We're going to be taking the first turn this time. And we got a pretty solid opening hand here. We open a Purrelyly, we have one of the quick play spells, and we have the Yeep. Opening the Yeep's definitely not too shabby. Opponent's going to use the Ash Blossom here against the Purrelyly effect. I am going to end up using the Crossout Designator. I could have potentially not, but at the same time, it's like, you know, definitely want the My Friend here. Plus, the opponent has used the Ash Blossom now, so we know that the My Friend is going to resolve. If my opponent had used Imperm, I would have still used the Crossout Designator, but I definitely would have been more afraid of the My Friend getting Ash Blossomed. So, gonna go for Delicious Memory here, because we didn't already open it. Opponent's going to fire off a Maxx in response to the Delicious Memory. This is actually really awkward, because I've already used the Crossout Designator. I am not able to actually use the Ash Blossom that's in my hand to stop this Maxx. So, very well played on my opponent's part, honestly, because now I'm going to have to go for a little bit of an awkward play. We're still going to make a Noir, which was my original plan here, but I want to do it while giving my opponent as few draws as possible, and we can actually make a Noir here with only giving the opponent 1 draw. It's arguably not even a bad idea to wait here, because now I get to make a Noir that's 7 materials instead of 6, by basically using the Yeep. Definitely going to Ash Blossom their Sword Soul Emergence here, but yeah, I get to use Plump's effect and then use the Yeep, and then I can summon the Noir with the extra materials on it. So they do have the call by for my Ash Blossom, so their emergence is going to resolve. But I'm not too concerned here because Sword Soul, I think, honestly, here's the thing, right? I think Sword Soul even has a bit of a time just getting over this Plump, let alone the Noir that we're going to summon. And the nice thing about Yeep is that the monster doesn't go back until the end phase of the next turn. When I first read this card, and for the first play session I was playing this deck, I do this thing sometimes where I misread cards and I balance them in my head. I thought Purrelyap sent the monster, initially, when I first played the deck, I thought it sent the monster back during the same end phase you played this card, which would be balanced. No, Yeep is a little bit better than that, and you actually get to put the monster back during the next turn, so now as my opponent threatens to go into the Baron de Fleur, we're definitely going to go ahead and fire off the Yeep now, while we were still able to resolve it here. They're going to chain a Maxx, but they're only going to get 1 draw off of it, so we were still able to make all the plays that we wanted to make, but again, we're giving our opponent minimal draws off the Maxx. So I'm going to use Noir to put back the Longyan, and the reason I'm putting back the Longyan there is a couple of reasons. Obviously, 1, I don't want my opponent to go into the Baron, but 2, leaving them with a Sword Soul token can actually be pretty awkward for Sword Soul sometimes, especially in a situation like this where the Sword Soul token on the field means that they can't go for any Link summoning, which means even if my opponent did have backup 10 plays, they would have to synchro with the Sword Soul token first, which would not always be the most feasible thing to do there. So yeah, as my opponent goes to the end phase, I'm going to go ahead and just use up the rest of my Noir's materials here to get rid of the back rows that they just set. That way we're not going to have to worry about those going into our turn. I was very sure that one of them was going to be Blackout. Like, I kind of just assumed it was, and then maybe like Imperm or Call by. Whatever it is, you know, we don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to normal summon the Purrelyly, and it's going to immediately get Chi Shroud. And that might have seemed like an obvious thing, like, well, why would you summon if you knew it was going to get Chi Shroud? The reason is that, and you might have noticed that the last material I left on my Noir is the Pretty Memory. The reason I saved this one for last is because I can use this effect to attach my opponent's Chi as a material, but obviously, if I had just activated that effect, then my opponent could have just negated it. I also don't really need this Purrelyly search. I already have a My Friend Purrely on the field, and this is only once per turn anyway. And I don't really think... I've already used the Yeep as well, right? Yeah, the Yeep is gone. So the only thing this could really get is the straight Purrely Street, which isn't really going to do a whole lot for me. So going to use My Friend Purrely. Not actually going to end up using the Happy Memory here, but definitely going to get it for the next turn. Now we're using the Pretty Memory effect. We're going to sack off that Purrelyly, attach the Chi as a material, battle over the token with the Noir, and then that will allow us to stack a Zeus on top of the Noir, which will allow us to play around the Purrelyeap effect to, you know, get rid of the, what is it? The Xyz monster at the end of the turn. But it's going to drop down a Protoss that they top decked. We're definitely going to need to Zeus that. We're going to lose our My Friend Purrely, but, you know, we're actually able to keep our Zeus and make plays for the next turn now, so. Doesn't matter what we top decked here, because we already have the Happy Memory in hand. Gonna grab the Purrely. Opponent actually has a Ghost Mourner here and a Moonlit Chill, though, to negate the Purrely. Definitely awkward. Now we can't get a My Friend, but we do at least have a 3k beat stick, and our opponent is in top deck mode here, so they're gonna have to rip like an Emergence or a Taya in order to be able to have plays here. That's pretty much Sword Soul's only one card play, I think. Well, maybe if they draw a Tendi monster, they could pull some shenanigans, but okay, so this is really, really good here, right? I'm going to activate the Purrelyly. My opponent's top deck was actually a Gamma, which in a lot of worlds might be pretty devastating. But in this world specifically, we're living really, really sweet, because not only will this trigger Zeus's effect in order to attach a second material for a board wipe, this also procs my triple attack to draw 2 cards. So, yeah, it's funny. My opponent having Gamma there was actually like the best possible top deck for me that they could have had. So, good stuff. I was really satisfied with that. Okay, got a couple more duels to take a look at. Let's go straight into the next one here. So this next opponent is going to be on Floowandereeze, and they're actually teching DD Crows. And aside from, you know, being a level 1 winged beast in Floowandereeze, there is actually another reason to play DD Crow over Bestials in this format, and that is, well, this deck I'm playing right here. DD Crow can be used against spell and trap cards that are in the graveyard, as we're going to see this game. So, the Purrelyly targeting a quick play spell in the graveyard, you can actually stop that with DD Crow. Opponent started with a duality there. It didn't seem like it found them too much. It was just DD Crow, Dreaming Town, and Tokan. They end up taking the Tokan, but only set 1 card before passing. So, again, we can't actually OTK, because Purrely can't really OTK into an empty board, but we definitely have at least some amount of plays here, right? Could have summoned Purrely and go for a My Friend. My Friend is going to allow us to find 3 Delicious Memory, guaranteeing that we get a copy there. Opponent's going to Maxx C in response to the Delicious Memory, but thankfully we have the Ash Blossom here. And I also have the Impermanent hand, so I can still stop my opponent's birds if needed. Alright, because my opponent doesn't have anything on their board for me to OTK into, I'm definitely going to try to go for more of a Noir setup here. Purrely is going to find the field spell. That's very nice in case my opponent's back row is imperm, but as we can see, opponent did not take DD Crow off duality because they already had a DD Crow in their hand. That's going to banish the Delicious Memory that my Purrelyly is targeting, and now I'm not able to summon the Plump. But I can use the Pretty Memory in my hand with the Purrely on my field in order to summon the Beauty here. The monster negates on the Beauty are definitely good against flow in their own right, but again, I already have the Imperm in my hand, so I can actually just go for a Downerd Zeus here. To be fair, I do have both the field spell and the My Friend, so there was absolutely consideration to just keep the Beauty on the field, and again, it offers the effect disruption, which is pretty good against flow. But I already have the Imperm, which was the tiebreaker here. If I didn't have the Imperm, I would have definitely much more considered keeping the Beauty there. Opponent actually managed to peel the Dreaming Town off the top of their deck, so they can banish the Impen in hand, and their face down ended up being Book of Moon against the Zeus here. It's pretty brutal. It means they have everything they need in order to go off here. But again, we thankfully have the Imperm, although we're in a bit of a unique situation here because of the Imperm, right? It actually doesn't end up being that great to use Imperm here. because my opponent banished the M-Pen earlier, they can just get it back with the Tokon. Opponent's actually going to use the Robina to grab DD Crow, which I was very grateful for here. I thought they were going to summon Eaglin in search of Ryza, which would have actually, I think in the long run, presented more issues for me. But instead they just grabbed a DD Crow to potentially stop another Purrelyly, right? And they're just going for the M-Pen here, kind of banking on the M-Pen by itself with the Dreaming Town in order to be enough. But I don't know. I'm not a flow player, so maybe I'm wrong. But I kind of think they should have grabbed Eaglin there. I was more scared of Eaglin than DD Crow here. So. Alright, M-Pen is going to battle into the Purrely, take a little bit of damage there, but it can't be destroyed thanks to the Delicious memory that we used earlier, so during the last turn. We end up finding the Happy memory. I'm going to flip up Zeus and then chain Imperm on the M-Pen, and it actually doesn't matter if my opponent chains Dreaming Town here, because my Imperm will always resolve before my opponent can build up too many birds on the field. And we're actually going to wait on the Zeus here. I'm waiting for Eaglin to hit the board, because once Eaglin, which is getting added now, gets normal summoned, now they have another effect to normal summon, but they only get to add a level 7 or higher bird. So now I'm going to use Zeus, clear the field, and I think I know my opponent's other card in hand, right? Isn't it a DD Crow? So now I know my opponent's hand is DD Crow and Apex-Avian, and like, yeah, they're going to use DD Crow against the Purrely when I go to activate the, or the Purrelyly when I go to activate her effects, but now that we force that, we know our opponent has nothing, and we still have a Zeus with 2 materials on it, so. Our opponent was able to start to mount a bit of a board there, but we were definitely able to go ahead and curb it. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish the duel on this turn, but we can definitely set up a 2-turn kill here. I'm going to, even though I whiffed on the Purrely Excavate, still go for a Sylvan Princessprout. At this point, more for damage than actually excavating anything, but because again, we still have the Zeus to board wipe, and again, we know our opponent's last card is Apex-Avian. So even if they ripped like a Rabina, right? They would normal Rabina, add whatever, probably Eaglin, normal the Eaglin, and then when they normal the second bird, right? Then I can use Zeus's effect to board wipe, and well, it would depend what they added. Like, if they added a Tokon, then maybe I would have to, like, wait a little bit. But basically, I wait until up to the point they're about to summon the Apex-Avian. Which, I don't know, the Apex-Avian can't even really battle over the Zeus. So, like, does it even really do that much here? They don't have access to their M-Pen because it's in the graveyard. And, yeah, I think we were sitting pretty well there. So, we have one more duel to check out. Let's go straight into that here. Alright, this last game is going to be against Mikanko. That first duel, I thought we actually saw their Mikanko cards, but I was actually thinking of this game, I'm pretty sure. Alright, we're going to be going first here, because it is Mikanko. We opened the Fenrir here. Actually, this hand is phenomenal. We opened Fenrir, My Friend, and multiple quick play spells, including a Sleeping Memory. Very much an ideal opening hand. Alright, opponent is going to Ash Blossom the My Friend. Definitely a good play on their part, but we should. Well, we can't Noir here. We might be able to Noir. We can't guarantee Noir here, but we definitely still have plays, even if we can't Noir. Because, yeah, we get to add the Yeep. Oh, wait, this is actually a guaranteed Noir, because we can just use Yeep to go into the Noir during our opponent's turn, is the thing, right? Alright, here's Beauty. Beauty's going to attach with Sleeping Memory. It's also nice that we get to go Beauty and then into Noir. Actually, I don't know if we are going to summon a Noir here, right? Because the Noir wouldn't be unaffected. It would only have 4 materials. Yeah, I'm going to just draw during the standby phase, and I'm actually not going to use the trap because I want to see if I could save the monster effect negate. But we do get a couple of our quick play spells back with the My Friend at least. Alright, they're revealing the Ritual Monster. It looks like they're playing a bit of a Dogmatica variant. They've got the Nadir Servant for the Ecclesia, and then also to send the Entes, as we saw there. Entes gets to pop the Fenrir before my opponent commits to the board at all, which is pretty cool. Also, Dogmatica Ecclesia with the 53% win rate. I wonder if that's because... I don't know, Ecclesia does actually see play against a pretty, not a very wide range of decks, but enough, right? Like, Dogmatica is good enough in its own right. I don't know if it always sees play in Mikanko, but that could definitely explain that win rate. And it's teched in a few other decks as well. Also, I don't know if it's intended to be, but the little circles here on the ritual monster on Ohime definitely remind me of like lemon slices. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that's what I think of every time I see them. So I got the Imperm to destroy my opponent's monster and save myself a bit of damage. I actually probably should have done that on the ritual monster now that I'm thinking about it, but excuse me. But I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal. So here I'm going to start by activating My Friend to see if I can bait some disruption. And we do actually manage to bait an Ash Blossom. Not that my opponent would know this, it was still right for them to use the Ash Blossom there, but my hand is like stupid good. Like going into this turn, I have 4. Well, they would actually know that I have 2 of these quick play spells, but yeah, with my hand being 4 quick play spells, I definitely don't need the My Friend to resolve here. So I'm going for the Epurrely Happiness here, but I can't OTK right now because of Ohime's effect, and also because of the defense mode Maximus, right? So whatever am I to do? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stack as many materials on the Epurrely Happiness as possible first, to get its attack points as big as I can with Delicious. Then I'm going to use Yeep now during the main phase. What that's going to do is it's going to allow me to go not into an Expurrely Noir, but rather into an Expurrely Happiness. And I do like having one of these in the extra for very niche case scenarios like this. I can actually use the Expurrely Happiness main phase effect to negate my opponent's cards, including their Ohime. I get to battle both of their monsters because of the Happy Memory, and then I get to swing in for lethal with my opponent's own Kaiju there. So with some tricky effect monster negation with the Imperm on their turn, and then the Expurrely on our turn, we were able to basically make the Makanko monsters just regular vanilla 0 attack monsters, and our opponent lost as a result. So good stuff. There is our games. Hope you enjoyed them. Let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.